We ready?
I think we are.
Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Norm.
Good morning.
Good evening. We did that last time.
I know. Sorry. But it is morning, actually.
I'm watching the little red light on the front of the camera to make sure it's not clipping over there, and it seems like it's good.
It's good.
Well done.
It's amazing to me that in San Francisco, in the middle of the great California drought of the last 5 years, we can go from no rain for say the 8 weeks that we normally get rain every single day. And then the one day that I have tons of little kids coming over to my house to go catch things in the backyard.
Easter.
Pours rain.
Yeah.
Unbelievable trends.
And not even enough rain. Are you guys doing water rationing in your house?
We have to.
We do the fast showers. I've stopped eating almonds entirely.
Yeah, right. A gallon of water per almond or something like that.
But the gallon of water per almond sounds like one of those huge stats. And then the real one is it's like 2,500 gallons of water for a quarter-pound hamburger. So,
and other things like for every shrimp you eat, 35 pounds of bycatch is caught and killed and thrown away. Bycatch is the other crap they dredge up from the bottom while grabbing the shrimp.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
that's not good.
A lot of waste.
Bad.
We export a lot of our water.
Then the thing that gets me is golf courses.
Yeah.
Right, like they're still going.
Yes, of course.
Right, and we have a drought, and
you're driving down the 5, and you see like golf course there and there.
And, they're opening
the country
more
club's
all the
got
time.
a country
There
club.
are millions of gallons, a million. I don't know how many.
There's a surprising number of golf courses in San Francisco.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Nestled, like 7 or 8 of them or something in our 7x7 space. It's a little ridiculous.
So here's the thing. I look at the almond trees and I look at the citrus orchards and I look at golf courses, frankly, as things that we've already invested tons of water in.
Yeah.
So, if we're going to say, hey, these are public use spaces or whatever it happens to be, what's the best way to use the water? I don't necessarily think it is getting rid of, I joke about the almonds, but I don't think it necessarily is letting all the almonds die because we've already spent, in many cases, 10 or 20. I mean, those are trees that will produce for a very long time, take 10, 20 years, and the 1 gallon per almond is some cost over the life of the tree, not per almond every year.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
still,
it is a lot of water.
It's a lot of water.
I got much more upset a few years ago when the reports about the farmers in the valley using 80% of California's water and not and not actually using water conservative irrigation methods like drip irrigation and stuff like that. Now a lot of those guys, it seems like, have turned over to more modern irrigation methods kind of after the horse was out of the barn. But it's all good. We'll figure it out, man. I guess.
It's bad. These nights in San Francisco have been bumming us out.
Are you guys, if it's yellow, letting it mellow?
Yeah, well, yeah.
If you don't, should we explain?
No. That should be pretty clear. I think that's pretty clear.
Okay.
No, and I don't have any problem with that. And we did that in New York when I was a kid. We had a drought back in New York, and this is not our first rodeo in San Francisco. But still, it's like the levels to which it's gotten, and frankly, the what seems like an incredibly poor response from Sacramento is very upsetting. I don't think the water restrictions that Jerry Brown's, they don't go far enough.
No. Oh, it's too low, too late.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that,
we're so resistant to change anyway.
Well, and the fact that there's municipal, the fact that San Francisco is planning non-drought tolerant stuff as recently as 3 years ago in medians and parks and stuff like that is insane. Now, it's good to have green space.
Yeah.
Some. But yeah.
Let's be realistic.
The middle of 19th Avenue, that doesn't need to be green. No feet trod on the middle of, anyway.
My experience with SimCity, people are going to be sad and angry.
The toilets won't flush.
So turn off, taking all the green space away.
Well, as far as talking about consequences, I was talking with the kids this morning. We were going over some tax stuff. So every now and then, Juliet hands me some forms, some breakdowns from our tax records, and says, "Can you look over these and tell me if they are all corporate expenses? Let's just make sure." So going through the granularity, and thing 2 says, "Why do you have to? Is it really bad to spend money from your corporate card non-corporate stuff. And so we start to explain the tax system. And then we start to explain also why you need to keep track of that stuff. Like keeping track is the lifeblood of not getting behind financially.
Yeah.
And then we start telling them, man, like you'll get a bank account and they'll just start sending you credit cards in the mail that say sign this, and immediately you have $3,000, which you don't have to pay off for a long time.
Forever if you pay the minimum payment, yeah.
And my mom, who's been in town this weekend, brought up that one of the British expressions for a credit card is the never never.
Is it as in this is the thing you never use?
No, as you never ever see it or feel it or pay for it. Right? It's off there in the distance when you do it. And so that got us to talking about the fact that home economics. Did you take home economics?
No, they didn't have it anymore.
They had it when I was a kid, and it was great. I learned how to bake. I learned how to sew, both skills, which are fantastic for me. I'm still an avid sewing machine user.
Did you take it because there were girls there?
No, I actually took it because I wanted to learn those skills.
Okay. But I'm not surprised, really.
Was there a finance component?
No, and it amazes me that my kids are in school and they're learning all sorts of stuff about Hammurabi's Code and world history, which is super important.
Sounds like ninth grade.
But they're not. Yes, but they're not learning about how to balance a checkbook.
Well, the things that they actually need to know, like here's how car insurance and house insurance work, right?
That's so funny.
Nobody explains that.
I learned that in Boy Scouts.
What? Insurance?
No, the personal finance. No, there was one of the merit badges. The personal management badge.
But that was just balancing a checkbook.
Yeah.
But still, that's really vital.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like I was explaining.
Personal accounting and writing down.
Here's
I'm
things
sure it's
kids
changed
don't
now.
realize. Kids don't understand predatory lending. They don't understand that your credit card will move your payment date in order to throw you off balance and make you accidentally pay late. They don't know that your credit card company, that your bank will prioritize the checks it pays off in order to maximize the number of overdrafted checks to charge you overdraft fees for every single one. Do you know about that one?
No, explain that.
Okay, so let's say you have $100 in your bank account, and you write one check for $90 and 8 checks for $5 each or $3 each.
So you're overdrawn.
You're overdrawn by maybe $1. What it will do is it could pay off 5 checks and blow out the 90, and then you pay one overdraft fee. But no, it'll pay off the 90 and overdraft you on all the others so that they can charge you multiple. They literally have algorithms that do that so that you pay the most.
And then they probably hit you with the fees as well, too.
Right,
like
and the fees are what? It's like a standard fee. It's going to be like $35, and then there's an amount on the check that it takes a percentage of. It can be hundreds of dollars.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, just to be clear.
So they don't know any of that stuff.
If your bank changes your credit card payment date and that stuff regularly without telling you, you should get a new bank. Like, I've had Bank of America for 20 years and have never had that happen.
Our Amex bill's due date just changed. Again, it's just the fact that it happens out there in the world is something everybody needs to be aware of. Yeah. Because I remember being a kid and starting to, I got a checking account. And I started getting credit cards in the mail. And I had one, and I signed it and got a credit card. I felt really grown up. I didn't spend anything on it for months. And then,
bam,
everything. And then I thought if I ignored it, it would go away.
Oh, no, it doesn't work.
No. It's not like a magazine subscription.
I got in so much trouble. I mean, it took me years to pay off that original $2,500.
Wow.
You know, I had to go to consumer credit counselors.
Well, but I mean, it's one of those things that no one ever explains unless your parents do it, unless you happen to be lucky enough that you read the book that somebody hands you, like that uncle gives you when you turn 15.
You actually read it.
Yeah, but like home financing, the difference between a home loan and a loan that's compounded monthly and annually and whatever the other options are, those are only two I know about. I guess probably the loan shark does daily, but I don't know.
The VIG.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you got a real nice leg here. It'd be a pity if something happened to it. It's that stuff's never explained.
No.
You have to find that out for yourself, and the earlier you find that out, the better off you are. One of our friends, Brian, had a revelation when he turned about 30, I think, where he realized that if he kept his expenses low, he could literally do anything he wanted. because he'd reached a point in his life where he was able to earn money without necessarily going to an office every day.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, I don't have credit card debt. I don't have a car payment. I have this house, but I can rent it for more than I put into it.
Yeah.
I can move to Hawaii.
Bingo.
And he moved to Hawaii.
I know.
Yeah. Did you read that Vogue story about that? There's a couple who did this startup. I think they did Sonify an app, and they made a ton of money. I think they sold to Smule, and then they lived in Palo Alto or somewhere in Silicon Valley, bought tons of stuff. Everyone there was a Maserati or a Tesla, started buying tons of stuff, and then one day they just gave it all away and traveled the world for a year. Because
it's very appealing to me.
It is very appealing.
And it's Airbnb'd, and there's the progression of, as they explain it, internet was spotty at times, but then once internet got spotty enough, they just put away their phones for weeks at a time. And it's not a concept I can connect with.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And they said it was the most liberating thing ever. Everyone says that.
Did you guys ever get in trouble and use consumer credit counselors? Do you know about this service?
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of amazing. If you end up with a lot of credit card debt from multiple credit cards, it can be very, very, very difficult, nigh impossible to get out from under that if you have, let's say, some past dues of 30, 60, or 90 days. They will be coming after you. They will be compounding fees and penalties, etc. So there is a group, it's a nonprofit, I believe, called Consumer Credit Counseling Services. They actually were, if I'm not incorrect about my history, formed by the credit card companies to help people get out of default. And the way it works is because Consumer Credit Counselors has a terrific record, what they'll do is you go to them and you say, I owe money on these 5 credit cards. It's $18,000 in debt. My minimum monthly payment is $1,800 a month, and I can't make that.
Right.
They go to the credit card companies and negotiate with them as a block and say, can you freeze and they get most of them to freeze the interest. That's giant. Mm-hmm. Then they get them to accept, they say, what can you pay? Then you work with them. Okay, you can pay, $900 a month. Then they figure out, and they go and negotiate with all 4 of the companies that you owe money to and say, he can only pay $200 here, he can pay $160 here, he can pay this and this.
But the interest isn't running anymore, so the clock's not ticking, and you're at least not accruing more debt. You're actually knocking principal off.
They freeze the interest, and they get your monthly payment down so that you can actually start paying off the principal that you owe instead of just constantly peddling. And they got me out of my debt. And it was phenomenal. The relief was so massive. So these are the kind of things that I think they should be teaching kids in high school, which is where my kids are. Like, that is exactly the age at which they should learn that.
Have you gotten a checking account for your kids yet? When do you think is it? Like, I got that when I went to college, basically.
Yeah, my wife and I have been talking lately about sitting down and talking to them and running through maybe, a summer of a checkbook balancing home course, right? Mm-hmm. Like homeschooling them in finances like that. Because they should be scared. Like, they don't realize that there are algorithms built to exploit the ways that they don't think about money in order to extract more from them in the long run.
And as there are services, it's so easy for younger people to get into PayPal and to use the digital services, and with things like the Apple Watch stuff and Apple Pay, there's no tangible aspect to it.
No.
It's not even numbers.
Right. And this whole, I think I have $100 in the bank. Like, that doesn't.
Yeah, let me Venmo something. Nope. Overdrawn.
Yeah.
Debt.
And, even down to understanding. Do you know what the credit card companies refer to customers who pay off in full every month?
No.
They call them deadbeats.
Yeah, it's going to be a deadbeat.
Yeah.
Because they make no money off of it.
Right.
We're deadbeats. We pay off every month. Yeah. Exactly.
Wow.
So once you understand that they think like that, you understand that they're working really hard to get you to stumble.
Well, it's like Douglas Adams said, the first against the wall when the revolution comes, clearly going to be the bankers.
Yes. What is this new mic stand? I love this.
I didn't want to carry the 30-pound one.
That's great. We should have all of those.
They're a little bit of a pain to put on and off because you have to screw them under the table.
I will drill 3 holes in this table.
I will get 3.
And put bushings in there. And you can just sock them in.
They come with bushings, so you can just put in there. So
that's great. Let's do that next time.
I will get 3 of those.
That'll be our little craft project.
And a couple extra microphones.
That's so nice. Every time I get into a radio station,
this is a cheapo too.
Every time I get into one of those, even in the big radio stations, those creep.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you what.
I'm like, this has one job, which is to hold a microphone, which shouldn't make any noise.
This is a $35 one, and I put the lithium grease on the joints when I got it, and it was quiet for a long time. It doesn't have like the smooth fluid movement.
Yeah.
The Rode ones that I got for the office that are $99 each.
Yeah.
Are awesome.
Really?
You can just kind of one finger up, one finger down. There's no resistance. Like it just goes from no resistance to moving, which is amazing. And they don't make sound.
That's amazing to me. But sorry, just back to the finances. I'd love to hear comments about, I don't know, whether there's courses that people found that were useful for teaching their kids about finances.
Books people like, podcast. I know there's a lot of smart money podcasts.
Right.
Not smart money, the podcast, but money.
I'd be interested in one that I could listen to with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something like that to really help them understand the shape. Because I understand it now in a way that I was so dumb and green and the perfect target.
Well, you learn the hard way. I mean, everybody. I did the same thing. When I was in college, I signed up for one of those. Hey, you get a 2-liter Coke if you sign up for this credit card right now. It's like, why would I not do? I'd be a fool not to do this.
It sounds like the difference between what they teach in school is more the macro side, like the big picture. You know, how banks screw over corporations, other banks, but now how it affects you directly.
You really need to know that. You know, my son the other day we were driving and he's very car oriented. Thing too is.
Well, he's 16 years old.
But I mean, he gets a car and driver, and he knows all the specs of all the cars. And so we're driving, we're talking about a car, and he's like, "Yeah, you get a lot of value for your money for that car, big expensive car." And I was like, I would be careful about saying things like that. You kind of sound like a little rich kid. He was like, "Oh my God, I get that. Thank you for telling me." Which is awesome.
That's good. Yeah, that's the right answer,
right? Totally. But one of the things I was saying was like, you can't say that because you don't have any money and you've never made any money and you've never run down to the phone company on the last day of the month on a Friday afternoon after work to get the payment in so they don't cut off your phone for the weekend, which is something all of us had to do. It's like everybody, screws up.
Oh, yeah.
And until you have to talk about the value for money of an expensive car sounds, well,
yeah,
a little entitled.
I think about, like, the things that I learned the hard way were house financing.
Yeah.
Important lesson: buying new cars almost always a bad deal.
Really?
Yeah. You depreciate immediately when you roll off the lot.
Instantly, yes.
5-10% of the car at minimum. And usually, if they get you into financing, you're going to be making, that's not a great choice.
That's
generally.
True. I grew up, my parents paid for every car in cash.
I paid for every car in cash up until this point, which has been, I always buy cars that are 2 years old.
Yeah. And actually, I plan that teaching my kids how to work on their own car is a key thing.
That's really hard to do now, though. I mean, if you look at it, like, you can change brakes and wheels and brakes and oil. But that's kind of it. Like, air filters.
Yeah, it's a good question.
All that stuff. A lot of the
cars
computer
they
stuff.
could afford.
That's true.
Still be a 10-year-old car, still very workable.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why I love Jalopnik. They talk a lot about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The cheapness and expense of buying an older, nice car, but working on it and fixing it up and the things that you can do.
I think I told the story about my dad getting a $300 CJ3 for me and us working on it together.
That's
and
amazing.
Then getting in the car and driving it the first time. He's like, "Nope, we're getting rid of this thing immediately. It's a death trap."
Really?
Well, yeah, because it's a real tipsy kind of like, He's like, nope. I'll buy you something safe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So yeah. I mean, but the lesson was there. Like I learned how to take the top block off and where to take it to get the top machine and then how to put it back together. And probably 9% of that is usable information on a car I drive today.
Yeah.
But at least when I go to the mechanic, I understand the basic language. When he says, "Hey, your alternator's not connected to your Rasmus meter," I'm like, "No, that sounds like bullshit, man." Give me.
It's not the shifter per se; it's the shifter assembly. As soon as they say assembly, you're totally
wrong place. You've made the wrong choice.
So what ended up being your first car?
I drove the family's old brown Ford unlabeled station wagon.
Why were
generic.
the family station wagons always brown?
They don't make brown cars
Mine
anymore.
were always brown.
It had wood paneling sticker on the side. It wasn't even wood paneling. And then the first car I bought though was a Ford pickup truck, a Ranger, a 1985 Ranger.
Norm?
A Zuzu Rodeo.
Ooh, an SUV.
Yeah. Small SUV.
Did you get in trouble with that? Did you almost tip it over?
No. Oh, no, that car you could. So.
Yeah, those were scary.
My first car was a 1976 Volvo station wagon, 245 DL. Great car.
Brown?
No.
Oh.
Yes. It was brown. I was like, no, because I can't believe we haven't talked about this on the podcast before, but yeah, I painted clouds all over it.
Oh.
And a Volvo station wagon with clouds all over it, I might as well have a neon sign saying, pull me over.
Oh, yeah.
That thing was a cop magnet. I could not go through the Waldo Tunnel in Marin without getting pulled over. I was like, what do I want to do today? Oh, let's get pulled over. Woo! Over there in Marin.
Well, they don't let your people over there in Marin.
In Marin, you get pulled over for driving an ugly car.
Yeah. I think that's a
California problem.
Yeah. Fine place to wrap this one up.
First cars, finance.
Yeah, if you guys, we would love tips.
We would love
tips.
I would be very interested.
Books, podcasts, things that people should know. I know that there's a ton of stuff that we should have talked about. We probably didn't. In terms of finance, especially.
Yeah, no, I know. It's a big, big subject. And it doesn't, the thing is that, and what I'd be interested in is, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to understand everything about the full banking system to at least understand the rudiments of how to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And some axioms of, like, don't go get that thing. Don't sign for the credit card that comes in the mail. Here are the terms to go looking for.
Don't buy boats on credit. It's good life lesson, rule of thumb.
Yes.
Understand how interest rates work before you buy a house or a car or get a credit card.
Yeah.
And understand the difference between compounded daily, monthly, annually.
I understand the philosophy of how banks think of you and think about extracting value from you.
It's kind of nice to know how consumer banks make money.
Yes. Precisely.
$1 at a time, it turns out.
Exactly.
That'll do it for us this week. Thank you guys for watching. As always, like us on YouTube, rate us on iTunes. This episode is brought to you by Tested Premium members.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, premium members.
Bye.
Bye.